I went from broke to successful, and the two people who should have had my back, my wife and my parents, decided I was only valuable once I was useful. The betrayal hurt. The part where they tried to rewrite reality so I'd keep paying for it was worse. I'm a 32-year-old guy, oldest kid from a working class home where dream was basically a swear word. My dad worked warehouse shifts until his knees started giving out. My mom bounced between jobs and carried this constant panic that one bad month could sink us. They weren't evil, they were scared. But fear can make people mean. When I got into web development in my early 20s, my parents acted like I joined a cult. Get a real job, my dad said. People like us don't start businesses. My mom would sigh and ask when I was going to stop playing on the computer. I remember showing my dad the first website I built, and he barely looked up from the TV. When I landed my first paid gig, $300, my mom's response was, "That's not a salary." So I kept going quietly. Nights, weekends, whatever I could take. I'd sit on my mattress on the floor with a laptop that sounded like a dying lawnmower, learning code from free videos and forums. I took projects for people who paid late, paid less, or didn't pay at all. I got scammed once and didn't tell anyone because I couldn't handle the "I told you so." The one person who told me I wasn't crazy was Hannah, my girlfriend back then, wife later. We met in community college. She was warm, social, the type who could make you feel like you mattered. When I'd come home crushed after another client ghosting or rejection email, she'd say, "Keep going. You're built for this." I believed her. We married when I was 26. Small wedding, borrowed suit, cheap rings. My dad literally told me at the reception, "Now you need stability. A wife needs security." I remember thinking, I'll give her security. I'll prove everyone wrong. For a while, we were fine. Tiny apartment, secondhand furniture, shared jokes, big plans. Hannah worked in marketing. I freelanced at night and took contract gigs during the day. We talked about kids someday when things were calm. We weren't rich, but we were a team. At 28, I landed one big client, then another. Referrals turned into a steady pipeline. I started an LLC, hired a contractor, then two. It wasn't overnight wealth, but it was steady, real growth. We bought a modest house with a yard and a dishwasher, which felt like winning the lottery to me. I remember standing in the kitchen the first night, running the faucet and thinking, I did it. I built something. That's when my parents' attitude flipped like someone hit a switch. Suddenly, I was our son the entrepreneur. My mom bragged to her friends. My dad wanted to talk investing, even though he'd spent years telling me I was wasting my time. They also started needing help, first legit stuff like my dad's dental work. I paid without question. Then it turned into urgent things that somehow always involved upgrades. A newer car, a kitchen remodel, debt consolidation. It was like my success turned into a community pool, and they expected me to keep it filled. Meanwhile, Hannah started changing in smaller, uglier ways. At first, it was normal-ish resentment. You're always on your laptop. You never really listen. I tried to adjust. Weekend dates, phone down at dinner. I even set a rule, no work after 8 p.m. unless it was truly urgent. But the agency still felt like a house of cards. If I relaxed, it would collapse. I kept telling her, after this deadline. There was always another deadline. Then came the stuff that didn't feel like normal frustration. Her phone stopped being just a phone and became a secret. Always face down, always on silent. She changed her passcode and didn't tell me. If I walked into the room, she'd angle the screen away like she was protecting it from me. She started having more work events, happy hours, team dinners, client meetings. She'd dress up like it was a date, come home late, and go straight to the shower. She started wearing a perfume I didn't recognize. Not new shampoo, different, like a deliberate choice. I asked her once gently, "Are you okay? You seem somewhere else lately." She smiled without warmth. Maybe I'm just tired of being alone in this marriage. That sentence made me feel guilty and defensive at the same time, which is a great combo for making you ignore your gut. The first real crack came from my mom. She called one afternoon and, in this fake casual voice, asked, "You and Hannah are okay, right? She seems lonely. You're so busy." Something about the way she said it made my stomach drop. "Did Hannah tell you something?" I asked. "No," my mom snapped too fast. "I'm just saying marriage takes work." It didn't sit right. My mom doesn't do concern without information. She collects information like it's currency. A week later, I saw a notification pop up on our shared tablet. I can't stop thinking about last night. Just the initial. My hands went cold. When Hannah walked in, I tried to sound casual. "Who's M?" She laughed like I'd asked something ridiculous. "What are you talking about?" "The message." Her smile twitched. "Spam. Or a group chat. Why are you reading my notifications?" That was the first time she turned it around on me. Not an answer, an accusation. After that, the little things stacked up fast. She'd work late, but her car would be parked down the street when I got home, like she'd come back earlier and left again. She'd claim she was with her coworker Jess, but then Jess would post stories from a totally different night. I started noticing how Hannah would sometimes come home with this nervous energy, talking too fast, laughing too loud, then collapsing into bed like she'd run a marathon. 2 nights later, she fell asleep on the couch. Her phone buzzed on the table. I'm not proud of what I did next. I picked it up. It was locked, but the preview showed enough. Are you sure he won't notice?" I put it down like it burned. I stood in the kitchen trying to breathe normally while my brain did cartwheels. I kept hearing my own thoughts. Don't be that guy. Don't jump to conclusions. Maybe it's harmless. Maybe. The next day, I checked the phone bill because our plan is in my name. There were hundreds of texts to one number I didn't recognize. Late nights, early mornings, weekends. I searched it. Mark R. showed up immediately, and when I added Hannah's company name, there he was, senior account manager, smiling headshot, wedding ring in his profile picture. My stomach turned into lead. The sick part is, I'd actually met Mark once before. Hannah dragged me to a company holiday thing months earlier, back when I still thought our biggest problem was me working too much. Mark shook my hand with his polished, friendly grip and said, "Man, your wife talks about you all the time." I remember feeling weirdly proud and embarrassed at the same time. He joked about how demanding marketing clients were, and Hannah laughed a little too hard. At the time, I chalked it up to office culture. Looking back, it feels like he was standing in my kitchen, wearing my coat, and I was the only one who didn't see it yet. I checked our bank statements. Small charges I didn't recognize. A boutique hotel 20 minutes away. A restaurant we'd never gone to. Same pattern. Same nights she was out with the team. The final piece came by accident. Hannah's laptop was open on the dining table, and an email subject line was just sitting there. Reservation confirmed. I clicked. Hotel, 2 guests, her name. When she came back inside, I was still sitting at the table. "What's wrong?" she asked, already guarded. "The hotel," I said, "the calls. Mark." Her face went blank for half a second, like a mask slipping. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Hannah," I said, "are you cheating on me?" Silence. Then she got angry, like anger made it less true. "This is insane. You're accusing me because you're never here. Because you're married to your work." "I'm asking a question," I said. "Answer it." She crossed her arms. Maybe I needed someone to actually notice me. Not a denial. A justification. I felt this weird, clean break inside me. Not rage. Clarity. "So you did," I said quietly. She started pacing, talking fast. "It wasn't serious. You don't understand. You were always after this deadline." Mark listened. Mark is married," I said. She shrugged like it was a detail. "So what?" That "so what" is going to live in my bones forever. I left the house to avoid saying something I'd regret. When I came back, she was gone. Texted me, "I'm staying at your parents'. We need space." Of course she went there. I called my mom. I could hear Hannah in the background laughing softly like nothing was on fire. "Is Hannah with you?" I asked. "Of course," my mom said, annoyed. "She's been crying. You've been neglecting her." "Mom," I said, voice shaking, "did you know she was seeing someone?" A pause. Too long. Then my mom sighed like I was exhausting her. "People make mistakes." My fingers went numb. "You knew." "I didn't know everything," she snapped. "But I knew you pushed her away." "Don't act surprised." I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because what would it do?" she fired back. "Make a scandal? Ruin your marriage? And now that you're making money, you think you're some prize?" That line hurt more than I expected. Not because I believed it, but because it proved I'd been fighting for approval that had conditions. My dad called the next day and sounded weirdly calm. "Don't be rash," he said when I told him I was done. "Marriage is bigger than feelings. Look at your part." Then, like he couldn't help himself, "And you have responsibilities now." He didn't mean to my wife. He meant to them. Because a week earlier they'd shown up at my house with paperwork for a loan and a rehearsed speech about consolidating debt. I'd said no. Politely. My mom had looked at Hannah like, "Can you believe him?" Hannah had squeezed my arm under the table and whispered later, "Maybe we should help them. They're your parents." At the time, I thought she was being kind. Now I wondered if she just didn't want them mad at her. Hannah came back after 3 days and sat across from me at the kitchen table like we were negotiating a cable bill. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "How far did it go?" I asked. She hesitated. "Does it matter?" "Yes," I said. "It matters." She tried the half-truth route. "It was mostly emotional." I slid the printed hotel confirmation across the table. I printed it because I knew she'd try to make me doubt myself. She went pale. "You went through everything." "You went through our marriage," I said. Then she flipped into bargaining. "I'll quit my job. I'll block him. Therapy, counseling, whatever. We can fix this." And here's the messed up part. For a moment, I wanted to say yes. Not because I thought it was fine, but because starting over sounded exhausting. Because the idea of being alone scared me. Because I've spent my whole life learning to swallow disappointment and keep moving. But I looked at her and all I could see was the shrug. The "so what?" "I don't want a patched up version of this," I said. "I want a marriage where I'm not competing with some guy from your office." She snapped, angry again. "You think you're better than everyone now." "No," I said. "I think I deserve basic respect." She stared at me for a long time and then said quietly, "If you leave me, I'll have nothing." For a split second, I felt that familiar pull. My reflex to fix, to rescue, to carry. Then I realized how twisted it was that she could destroy our marriage and still frame herself as the victim who needed saving. "I'm sorry," I said, and my throat tightened. "But I can't be your safety net after you set my life on fire." That week, I didn't sleep. I'd lie awake next to her, listening to her breathe and feel like a stranger in my own house. I'd get up at 3 a.m. and wander into the kitchen just to have something to do with my hands. At work, I'd repeat myself on calls. I'd stare at my screen and realize I'd read the same line 10 times. I started forgetting little things. Where I parked. What day it was. My body felt like it was running on fumes. The worst moments weren't even the arguments. It was the in-between. Sitting in traffic and suddenly realizing my hands were shaking. Opening my email and seeing Hannah's name on a calendar invite and feeling my throat close. Catching myself rereading old texts from when we were happy like they were evidence that I hadn't imagined the whole relationship. I'd look at myself in the bathroom mirror and think, how did I become the guy who has to prove his own reality? I booked therapy because I was afraid of what I might do with all that anger if I didn't put it somewhere safe. One line from my therapist hit me hard. You can't negotiate with someone who benefits from your confusion. That was Hannah. That was my parents. As long as I was guilty and uncertain, they got to keep what they wanted. I talked to a lawyer. I brought the boring proof, bank statements, logs, emails. I separated finances. I moved my business income into an account in my name. Not hidden, just protected. I changed passwords, froze my credit, documented everything. I kept my mouth shut and my head clear because calm is the only weapon that works against people who want you emotional. During that time, my parents kept calling. At first, it was about saving the marriage. Then it was money again. My mom called with that sugary voice. "Sweetheart, about that loan. Your father's stress is making his blood pressure worse." I said, "Mom, I'm getting divorced." She went quiet, then hissed, "Don't you dare. Do you know how that will look?" There it was. Not concern for me, concern for appearances and access. When I filed, I didn't announce it. The papers got served while Hannah was at work. She came home furious, waving the envelope like it was a weapon. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled. I stayed calm. "How could you do this to us?" I asked. I said I was sorry. "And then you ran to my parents," I said, "and they helped you." She screamed that I was humiliating her. She accused me of being controlling. She said I was destroying the family. I listened, and the more she talked, the more I realized she was grieving consequences, not remorse. That night, my phone blew up with messages from my dad. "Call me now." My mom left a voicemail sobbing that I was throwing away everything. I didn't respond. I went to a friend's place and finally said out loud, "My wife cheated." It felt like ripping tape off skin, but it also felt real. A few days later, a message accidentally landed in my lap that sealed the whole thing. My mom texted me a screenshot meant for Hannah. I guess she was trying to send it to her and clicked my name by mistake. It was my mom saying, "Don't worry, he'll calm down. He won't leave. He's too proud of what he built. Just remind him family needs him. If he divorces you, he'll stop helping us." I stared at that for a long time. My mom wasn't just covering for Hannah. She was strategizing, using my marriage like a lever to keep money flowing. I didn't reply. I saved it. 2 weeks later, my parents invited me to dinner. I went because I needed to look them in the eye and stop pretending. When I walked in, Hannah was there, sitting at the table like she belonged. My mom smiled like this was normal. We thought it would be good to talk calmly. Translation: we thought it would be good to corner you. They started in, "Everyone makes mistakes. You can't throw away a marriage. Think about your future." Hannah sat there with red-rimmed eyes, playing the wounded wife. I let them talk. Then I set my phone on the table, pulled up my mom's text, and turned it toward them. "You want calm?" I said. "Here's calm. This is the truth." My mom's face drained of color. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you did it first," I said. "You knew. You hid it, and you used it." Hannah's eyes flashed. "You're trying to make me the bad guy." "You made yourself the bad guy when you chose him," I said. "I'm just refusing to carry your story for you." Then I said the part they really cared about. "And the money stops." The silence was instant and loud. "The help," I continued. "No more cash. No co-signing. No remodels. No upgrades. No debt consolidation. I'm done funding people who don't respect me." My dad said, low, "You're being vindictive." "No," I said, "I'm setting boundaries." My mom tried to pivot. "Your father's health, our bills, after everything we did for you." "You did what parents are supposed to do," I said. "That doesn't mean you own me. And it definitely doesn't mean you get to pressure me into staying with someone who cheated so you can keep your lifestyle." Hannah stood up, furious. "So, this is what this is about. You're punishing everyone because you're hurt." "I'm hurt," I said, voice steady. "And I'm done. Those are different." I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up and said, "If you want a relationship with me, it happens with respect. Not guilt, not threats, not manipulation." Then I left. It was paperwork. mediation, selling the house, dividing things we once bought with love. Hannah tried every version of herself: tearful, furious, sweet, cold. She offered one more chance, then told me I was heartless, then begged again. I kept it boring. I didn't argue about feelings. I argued about facts. The more calm I stayed, the less power her chaos had. Mark disappeared from the story as soon as consequences showed up. Funny how fast soulmates become strangers when the secret isn't fun anymore. A couple mutual friends reached out in that cautious way people do when they've heard a story already. "Hey man, just checking in. What happened?" Hannah didn't outright lie, but she framed it like we'd grown apart and I was cold and work-obsessed. I didn't blast her publicly. I just told the truth quietly when asked. She had an affair. I'm not trying to punish her. I'm just done. The friends who mattered didn't need more than that. And here's the part that surprised me. My life got better. Not because I won, but because the constant emotional tug of war ended. My head cleared. I worked less, but did better work. I started sleeping. I started eating real food again. I got back to the gym, not for revenge, just to feel like my body belonged to me. I moved into a smaller apartment and bought the first piece of furniture I'd ever picked just because I liked it, not because it was cheap. My parents didn't talk to me for a while. Then months later, my dad called. My mom had been sick. They were behind on bills. Old me would have rushed to fix everything and swallowed whatever disrespect came with it. New me asked for the hospital info and paid directly. I helped, but I didn't reopen the door to being used. My mom called afterward, voice weak, but still proud. "I heard you paid." "I did," I said. "You didn't have to," she murmured. "I wanted to," I said. "But nothing goes back to how it was." She took a shaky breath. "I thought I was protecting the family." "You were protecting the version of the family where I keep quiet and keep paying," I said gently. "That's not protection. We're not magically healed. My parents still have their moments. I still have mine." Sometimes I get hit with a stupid wave of grief when I see a couple in a grocery store arguing about something small and normal. Sometimes I miss the person I thought Hannah was. But I'm not confused anymore, and that's priceless. If there's any lesson here, it's this. People will call you successful and important when they want access to you. They'll call you selfish the moment you say no. Rising from zero didn't make me special. It just made me visible, and visibility attracts entitlement. My revenge wasn't screaming. It wasn't ruining anyone. It was refusing to keep shrinking so other people could stay comfortable. It was choosing peace over being needed. It was finally believing in myself, even when my parents didn't, and even when my wife treated my loyalty like a joke. Turns out the top isn't a place. It's a boundary.